Dr. Wayne Sanderson is the Vice President of Australians for Native Title and Reconciliation, ANTOM, Queensland, and the Policy Team Leader for the Balanced Justice Campaign for Youth Justice Reform. He is a semi-retired clinical psychologist and a fully retired Uniting Church minister. Wayne has worked in mental health programs, including leadership roles at Lifeline in Australia and in the USA. He was an adjunct professor at Griffith University from 2010 to 2013 and is a member of the Stakeholders Advisory Group on the Youth Justice Renewal for the Queensland Cabinet.
Thanks for the privilege of being here. I pay my respects to the Gudjinburra people, to the elders on whose land we meet, and in particular the emerging elders. And I also need to acknowledge other country from which, throughout Queensland, our gang, the Balanced Justice Campaign Team, has received extraordinary challenge, comradeship, resources of many kinds, deep and abiding friendship, testing of strange and weird notions that we might have from time to time. And these are the groups: the Jagera, the Turrbal, the Kalkadoon, the Birragubba, the Waka Waka, the Gubbi Gubbi, the Yugambeh, the Quandamooka, the Bidjara, the Kamilaroi, of course, New South Wales, the Wiradjuri, definitely New South Wales, and the Darumbal in Rockhampton, Fitzroy Valley. I pay deep respects to those faces I see flashing before me as I say these names and their country. And look, I'm going to give a bit of my time to mention particular elders who are younger baby boomers, Generation X people and older Generation Y, who have marched forward into the wider community to give their gift to Australian society, but in particular, of course, to give their gift to their own people. And here they are. They're Jan Hamill, Noel Heyman, Mark Winnetong, Derek Chong, Jacqueline Payne, Linda Ryle, Josh Creamer, Nathan Jarrow, Tony McAvoy, Graceland Smallwood, Alfred Smallwood, Jennifer Cullen, Jackie Huggins, Les Malzer, the Reverend Alexandra Gator, and Mick Gooder. You'd never want to leave Mick off the list, would you? Okay, who are we? What are we about? And how do I get to the next slide? Thank you. Look, have a quick look at that. First dot, there's a little bit of our history. How did we get going? Well, there's 23 of us. And the short story is that we're from a range of disciplines and professions. We're dads, aren't we? We are either late career, men and women, or we are early retired, and that's me. And in our walk around Queensland, across 30 years or longer, we've seen things. We've seen things that happen with kids who are caught up in the youth justice system, in particular, Murray kids. And we have never forgotten things we saw. Sometimes, because of where we were and who we were, we could do something about that. It was always ad hoc, and that idea to all of us was intolerable. Something better had to be done. So here we are. That's who we represent, the second dot there. There's a mixed bag of people, and they and several others, are the 23 who have contributed into our policy formulation We set out to get a plan that hits the ground, that meets the standards of human dignity and decency, that meets the requirements of appropriate rights of peoples, and so on. And of course, that is doable, if there is the will to do it. So there we go. Here's the problem that confronts us. These are the latest available stats from the Attorney General's Department of Queensland. You can see there that 80% of kids in detention are First Peoples kids. Look down a bit further and you can see that the most common offences are theft and burglary and property, etc. Violence-related offences, very, very small percentage. We can scrape that together, but I have to tell you, save us the trouble, it's a very, very small percentage of the offences that have been committed. Now, in detention, for those whose offences have required that according to the legal system, look at that first stat, 81% remanded, on remand. 70% are Murray kids. And look at that out-of-home care stat. And we're going to be getting to that later in the day, aren't we? I hope we'll stand up on that resolution that's going to come before us about the urgent attention at the highest levels that's needed on that. The average sentence duration is 54 days. It's down a bit. There's cold comfort in that, really. It varies year to year, but it's come down a bit in the last 12 months. It's come down by about 7 or 8 days. Now, this showed a lot of promise. The youth conferencing system, it's a strong restorative justice thing. It was implemented by the Bligh government not too long before they lost office to the Newman government in 2012. And you can see there, as the years go by, that especially the difference between 2012-13 and 2013-14, big drop in the numbers of kids getting through this. Now, the Newman government actually did shut that down. They shut down the system, they cut off the funds, and it took them a while to get the legislation through to prohibit it. But in the period that it took them to get the legislation through, the youth justice officers and the court officers just kept it going. There's a parallel system that operates within the Queensland Police Service, controlled by them. And they found in certain regions where the area commanders of the Queensland Police Service had seen the benefit and the valuable impact of that service, they found hollow logs to keep it going right through the period of the Newman government. Don't tell anybody, will you? Don't tell anybody in Brisbane about that. But that's the sort of impact that a really good diversionary program, strong restorative justice program, can have with young offenders who are first-timers, second-timers, lower range offences. Get them right out of the criminal justice system. Don't let them into it if you can possibly help that. Okay, oh, by the way, we've got one little lonely stat here for the 2011-12 year, and they haven't been doing it since, but they're about to restore it. The whole idea of following kids who've been through the youth conference system as a diversionary, and have they reoffended? Have they reoffended during the first 12 months after the youth conferencing process? 94%. No reoffending in that period. It was great to be able to show that to LNP politicians when we did our statewide visiting in 2015. Some of them just wouldn't believe it, but that's their problem. Now look, what's going on here? What do we stand for, really? What are we saying is important? It's these things. I won't rattle through this, but have a quick squiz. And please raise any questions if you're so inclined a bit later, because that sequence of things is important. It's not just each item, but the foundational stuff for us in the Balanced Justice campaign is there you go, government and community partnership. Partnership. Not negligence and apathy and passive aggression and, well, we must deal with you do-gooders and we will, okay, that sort of stuff. You know, we've had too much of that. And fortunately, we've been able to confront a bit of that and call it out here and there. And we think that the climate is getting better for that sort of partnership to become more positive and more genuine. And so we're hopeful about that. I won't rattle through this. It's all there. Look, the fourth one. We're saying to the four ministers with whom we're dealing in the Stakeholders Advisory Group, currently actually, look, it's great to be carrying this new legislation, to be resourcing, and yes, you've done the right thing in the latest state budget. You've funded all these restorative justice things that we've been advocating. Good, keep at it. But look, you can't hide in George Street. You can't make yourself a small target and think that somehow it's all going to work out. And leave it for the ratbags and the wandering scholars and the do-gooders to make your case for you in the community. Oh, we'll make our case all right, but you've got to take responsibility. You've got to get out there and be able to have genuine town hall meetings in regional cities, perhaps a few other places too, and explain this to people and take people with you on this journey, because it's a very important journey. So I need to clarify here, what am I saying that represents ANTAR? What am I saying that represents the Balanced Justice campaign, of which we're a very active member? And then I'll be saying a couple of things that are coming out of the Stakeholders Advisory Committee that the Attorney General invited 8 of us from the Balanced Justice gang into that. And so there's a lot of things I can't say publicly, but there's one important thing that's just been announced actually, which I want to tell you in a couple of minutes' time. Here's what we're on about. There's the first 4 things. Now that first one has been done. It was quite difficult in so many ways. It wasn't just logistics, but there was a little bit of rude stuff happened within it. I'll give you a quick example. There were 5 district commands out of the whole state, Queensland Police, area commands, where the rate of arresting of juveniles in the fortnight leading up to that February date for the transfer of all the 17-year-olds into youth justice, the rate of arresting went up outrageously. What a coincidence. Clogged up the children's courts. Those matters couldn't have all been dealt with. So there was an over-arresting thing. A little festival went on there, certain persons, and we can't get from the Queensland Police Service, not yet, which particular area commands were they. They really don't want to tell us, but we're working on that. Now that's about third order, really. That's a third order priority, but it reminds us that the best intentioned, the most worthwhile of projects such as this can be undermined by people who've got another agenda altogether, a cynical agenda. Okay, on we go. I'll keep quiet for a minute while you have a squeeze at that. Number 8, that's an ANTAR policy position. It is supported in principle by the Balanced Justice campaign team, but the government is not committed. They're not buying into that question. They haven't really dealt with that yet. So our stakeholders haven't been able to get that where we think it should be on the agenda with the government. So can you see the potential benefit of that? That if there are well-resourced justice reinvestment projects in cities which, by their population in the different locations in the state can be sort of compared with each other in a positive way, so that learnings from each of those can be shared to benefit the other. That could be very valuable, but okay, it's not at the top of our list, but we think it's pretty important. Well, here's the wind-up. That represents what we're saying to people of goodwill, who will give us a good hearing and who will walk with us. Our intention is, especially with our brothers and sisters among the First Peoples, is that we should be walking with our brothers and sisters, never in front, never behind, always beside. So there we go. I've left on your seats a copy of the charter that we took to the last state election. This was our Youth Justice Charter, and it's a 4-pager. It looked prettier in colour when we sent it out to every candidate who stood for that state election, every party, every candidate, and we were able to get some pretty good feedback on that, and the impact of it continues.
That's fine, keep going.